What's up, Remco? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. Great to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me over here.
Yeah, of
Looking
course.
forward to some nice discussions.
Yeah. I've been I think trying to get on get together for a bit, so glad it finally is happening. And it's pretty late where you are. I noticed you're sipping on a cup of coffee. It's
I'm
impressed.
sipping on a very strong coffee at the moment. It's 10 p.m. for me now, so it's pretty late in the evening. Hey, but everything for you, guy.
That happens. I'm just
Yeah,
chugging a
yeah,
can of
yeah,
kombucha right now. So
yeah.
that's
I
awesome.
was thinking about getting a beer at the moment, but then again, yeah, I want to be nice and clean for the podcast.
Oh no, you totally should have. I would have joined you actually. That'd be funny. Maybe next time. So
Maybe next time. Yeah, maybe, maybe, maybe.
yeah. So to start off for people who don't know who you are, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, of course. Well, my name is Remco Broekmans. I'm living in the Netherlands near Rotterdam. And basically, nowadays, I say I'm a data modeling guy or a data guy. And I love data modeling. I do it. I'm working in BI data one for 25 plus years at the moment. I did a lot of other stuff before I went into BI and data warehousing, including being a lab technician, environmental engineer, being a baker. So a whole bunch of different stuff. Even work in a brewery for some time.
Oh.
So that's cool. But now 25 years into BI data warehousing and currently working for Genesee Academy on data vault modeling. And more important for me, at least, is the business mapping and Elm training stuff. So, how
Mm.
to get business involved in data modeling.
Let me start off here. I think data modeling is one of these topics that has, at least in my estimation, sort of gone from hot way back in the day, probably when you and I were getting started decades ago, to sort of, I think, kind of, I don't know, maybe it's different where you are, but it sort of fell out of favor, I would say, in the States, or at least it was a kind of an afterthought to some degree. But now it seems like it's coming back into the discussion. Maybe that's my own bias. Maybe that's my own
Well,
experience. But I'd love your take on this. Do you ever think it went away?
yeah, definitely. And I'm still I see the same stuff, right? It's been a very hot topic back in the days, and then it really died off. And now it looks like it's coming back. At the same token, I'm afraid the same thing happening like last time, that tool vendors are really basically coming up and say, you know what, forget about modeling. We take care of it. We do it in our model. Our tool can do all the fun stuff. I still remember back in the day, one of the tools said, you don't need to model. We have our own cloud, and you put everything into the cloud. Everything comes together, and not the cloud we know now, but a different kind of cloud. I'm not naming
Yeah,
brands
don't
anyway.
need to.
Yeah, but they said you don't need to model. We just get the connection going. And another ETL vendor said, you don't, you know what? We don't need to do modeling. We do it all, and they all do it based upon naming conventions, right? If
Mm,
someone is called from system one a customer and a system two says customer, apparently it's the same customer. We can join together. We can connect together, and we know it not working. I did some was one of the people in the Boulder BI Brain Trust around Claudia Imhoff. And also there we had our vendors, and all vendors said, you know what, data modeling is old fashioned. You don't need it anymore.
mm,
And thanks to, I think, the data lakes and the delta lakes and the lake houses, people understand, there might be a thing that we still need to do data modeling. It was the upcoming AI kind of buzzword and stuff. I still think that there are a lot of companies now, they said, cool, we have AI helping us, guiding us. You don't need to have data models anymore. We create the data model for you.
hmm.
And for me, that's the scary part.
Yeah, there's always another silver bullet, right? So,
It is definitely, and again, and I think it's the same with the tool vendors going into looking at source systems to say source system know, and we need to integrate data. Source system know what's going on. So you're going to integrate your data based upon naming conventions, or maybe a little bit more intelligent about it, but how it's technically in all the separate sources is being handled. And it's a complete different world as the business sees their own data and their own information going. And I think that's basically where, that's why what I love as a data modeler is talk to business people.
yeah.
and talk about their information and data. And by the way, I do a lot of workshop with business to get to the models. I never invite people from the business part of the organization to say, let's do a data modeling workshop because I will be there on my own. Maybe with one or two techie nerds from, but basically you're on your own. So don't ask business people, we do a data modeling workshop.
Hmm.
The same with conceptual modeling, logical modeling, physical modeling. Those are tech words.
Yeah.
They don't understand what it's meant. And if they do understand, they are forced to understand that naming. And you want to talk on their own, in their own terminology. And I think that's the most important one.
Hmm. It is
So,
important though, isn't it? And
yeah.
and it's one of those things where, as you say, you're not. It's really hard or impossible to do the modeling if you're not talking to the people who understand what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to divine this on your own, I would say, unless you're really smart or like, maybe artificial general intelligence at some point could, but that's not here yet. So, uh,
Yeah. And the same, I was thinking about, I did some LinkedIn posting. I was thinking about something at one of my early years in BI world. I was working for a brewing company, and they were saying we are going to change to this particular big German ERP company. We are going to use their software, and we're going to
no
say,
idea who that is.
yeah, yeah, no, that's and basically that company says you're a brewery. This is how it works. Adjust your whole entire organization and business
Mm.
processes to what we are saying you are doing.
This does happen with ERP vendors, though, right? Because I've seen this often where it's the suggestion is, well, your processes probably suck, so actually just use ours instead, in the way we want you to do it, and it's
And
jarring.
yeah, and what but the thing is, what they are forgetting is that there's a whole culture there. The business processes are in a way because this brewing company is existing since I think 18 whatever, so it's a long time. And then to say, oh, by the way you brew your beer, it completely sucks. Not the beer sucks, but the way you're
Yeah,
brewing it and your process sucks. This is how you should do it. They're doing it for over 100 years.
yeah,
And
it's
you're
a
really going
real
to
wonder
tell
how they
them
say it
that.
in business. Yeah,
So, by the way, they needed to adjust, of course, the ERP software to adjust to be matching with the process of the organization because the organization was very reluctant to change because it, hey, we do it for a long time. We know better than you do. It's the same with the reference models, right? The banking models, insurance models. They're just saying, oh, you're a bank. This is how it works. What
yeah,
everybody doing is, yeah, good for inspiration, but we are our own bank.
yeah. I mean, that's
It
literally
makes sense.
what differentiates you as a business, though, right? If you were to just
Yeah.
stamp out a template for brewery A, B, and C, even though these things have been around for 100, 200 plus years, and 1800 is pretty young for a brewery in Europe, actually. That's like, there's a lot of old
Well,
ways of doing stuff. But the,
I this one is, I think, yeah, I think it's 1800 whatever.
yeah,
But there are more older ones, and I'm not sure if they are taking over some other breweries and
sure.
whatever. But yeah, that's basically
Yeah,
what
but
they.
it's interesting because I think you bring up a really good point with the ERP systems, and I think, and we get back to modeling in a bit, but it is sort of this, what makes you great is exactly those little quirks, those culture points, as you point out, right? Those nuances to your process, the weird way you happen to do stuff. I mean, that's what people buy. I mean, if I wanted
Yeah,
generic beer, I would buy, I don't know, Budweiser or Miller or or I guess Peroni in Europe or whatever, right?
yeah,
It's
or Heineken or
Heineken.
whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's whatever, right? It's good, but it's not remarkable.
yeah, yeah. And for me, right, it really that's why I'm referring to this ERP software because it's the same with modeling. If you are thinking about that, we can do generic data modeling as well, right, for warehousing or business intelligence or reporting, dashboarding, whatever. I think you're missing the point. And for me, that really, really, really is important. And that's why I love talk to people from the organization.
Yeah.
And I'm easy for me. It's easy, right? I think for you the same, Joe, because we are almost always first timer for any organization. So we can come into an organization and say, cool, we are here, we're coming, we're going to help you. Please, dear business people, enlighten me. Tell me about your business. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what's going on. I know when you are working for a company for a longer time, and then you can say, "Oh, we need to do something different on data modeling. Let's talk to the business. Oh, dear business, what are we doing over here?" I said, "Yeah, you're working here for 5, 10 plus years, whatever. You
Right.
know, figure it out." So for us, it's easier, I guess. At the same token, I always tell people when they is having a new hire, I said that new hire is important because the new hire
Hmm.
can go to business people say, "Hey, I just started a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. I need to know more about your organization to be able to help you. Ask the questions." And you could do the W questions, you could do model storming workshop or
Yeah.
the Elm workshop like we are
Yeah.
doing, whatever. Just ask. And don't try to convince business people to talk in your language.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yep. Involved party, ring a bell?
What's that?
Involved party?
Yep.
Yep. I work for a company said, yeah, our business people understand what an involved party is. I said, well, they probably know that if we are not talking about involved party, you don't understand what we're talking about. It's completely crazy. So yeah,
There's a lot of language, and especially I think when we're talking to the business and we start using words like keys, right? And this kind of stuff, people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but can you leave? Thank you. Uh, so
I always say I'm always asking about what are the terms which are important for you. Or basically, give me what's going on in your organization. Tell me about your organization, and I'm just writing down all the terms they're using. Basically, all the verbs and nouns. Just
yeah,
list them. And then next step is I love to categorize them. Say it's an event, a person, a place, a thing, or something else.
yeah.
It's basically for me the first two steps in data modeling, and it doesn't feel like data modeling at all. And then, of course, there's always a point. Yeah, you're talking about a customer, a client, a Kunt, a client, whatever. They're all categorized as persons. Is it the same? Yes or no? Are they synonyms from each other? How do we
Hmm.
know? How do you identify them? Not talking about keys. How do you identify them? Because basically that's what we need to know. And if you're asking the business person about keys, right? Business keys, foreign keys, what are you talking about? And they said, how do you know that a customer is a customer? How do you identify that customer? Then they give you the answer. And maybe they said, yeah, there's a customer number. And the customer number might just be an auto generated integer coming from your CRM system.
Hmm.
But I don't care. They just say, well, there's a customer number. Or we're using the first name, last name, and date of birth and the city, which is completely stupid. But then again, some organizations do stupid stuff.
Hmm.
And but they can help you and they know more about their information than there is. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also for relationships. What's happening? What's coming together? I don't care about source systems when I do my data modeling. I don't care about source systems at all. I found out later. Oh, we want the information. Where is it coming from? Well, there's no source for it. Well, then your sources suck because you said in your business organization, this is how you run your business. This is what's connecting together. This is what's happening.
Hmm.
And if this is what you in the organization said this is happening, and your sources are completely not capturing that information, then your sources suck. Instead of what the ERP software vendor says, oh, your business process sucks because we are doing it different. And you have to manage. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially, I was starting about this today. I'm starting a new chapter right now on non-relational modeling, actually, which is everything else. So flip it on its head, and you're going for basically performance instead of modeling relationships and stuff, because that's people do that a lot. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and it flips it on its head, and it's interesting because then if you're trying to model for that, it poses some pretty interesting questions. Okay, so like what are we trying to model, but also like what are your performance requirements for this thing that we're modeling as well, right?
Hmm.
You're talking streams and like IoT events or something like that. So there's a lot of context, right? And it's yeah, it's fun. It's
And still, if you're doing right non-relational modeling, that's the end result, right? Because if you're asking the business, for the business, it is relational, right?
mhm.
It is related to each other. If it's coming from streaming, yes or no, they see something coming towards them, right? Like indeed the streaming data, they see a lot of information coming towards them,
Mhm.
and say, "Oh, this is interesting because this is talking about a product, or this is talking about a part of the organization, or whatever is coming," and I can connect the dots some way in their mind,
Mhm.
and that's where it's interesting because how are you going to store the data, right? If it's coming towards you in a big stream, you have to store it, right? Performance wise, or you have to keep it. It's just like if someone is putting a fire hose open and then you say, swallow everything, don't spoil the drip.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. But if you need to, you have to.
right. Yeah, and how do you
But
preserve those relationships and the things you need to preserve against the performance requirements, right? That's what makes this is an interesting one where it's a bit of both, where you have to capture what's meaningful, what's useful to end users, as well as also make them happy in terms of it actually performing on
yeah,
time. So
I I used to be well, I'm an older guy, so also old fashioned, right? Staging area, data warehouse, data mart, all the fun stuff. And the staging area was just one to one with your source system, and we stored it just in a database, etc.
yeah,
And after, right, it's just no historization, nothing in it at when I first started. And then of course nowadays with your persisting staging area, your historical data area, or even your data lakes, I don't care because for me a
yeah,
data lake or a lake house or whatever is just historical staging area. It's capturing all the data coming in from all the different sources, streams included. But on top of that one, you need to make sense out of it.
yeah,
You need one way or another, you need some kind of a logical model,
yep.
at least in my opinion, to make sense out of it.
Oh yeah,
Even
absolutely.
if you physically don't store any relationships or physically store, they're just files running everywhere, including in tables everywhere. We need to have a logical model to make sense out of it.
Oh, absolutely. And this is one of the things that I have been trying to emphasize to people because I think right now it seems like we're definitely the vogue. The thing to do is just start and end with a physical model, right? And this is even if you go back to the writings of Ted Conway way back in the day. I mean, they first thing he opens up with this relational model paper was data independence, decoupling the
Yep.
logical model and inherently the conceptual model from the underlying implementation of it, because this is one of the things that kept breaking when you had sort of these hierarchical databases and so forth, the network. It would like you
Hmm.
change anything, you change the application, you change the data, right? And this
Yep.
is that sucks. And that was the goal of it. But it seems like we're almost back to that now, where it's just optimized for what we're storing it. This is all obviously the model, and it plays hell on the data itself. I mean, it almost immediately gets out of tune with the logical and conceptual model, assuming you're even doing that, right? I think implicitly you are, no matter what you think, but it's probably not written down anywhere. It's all up
Yeah, and I
there.
think that's for me well, the real conceptual, logical, physical, right? The physical is very easy, right? That's as well. But the conceptual and logical, because I'm a data vault guy, right? Or the
Hmm.
ensemble guy. So then conceptual and logical is almost one to one, right? It's basically more or less the same. So I was always thinking, okay, do I really need to have a conceptual model and then a
Right.
logical model? If you're following the rules, yes. I know there even, by the way, there are different modeling layers in between and above, etc.
Hmm.
I think if you really look into your literature, you can see there are more layers. Do
Well,
you
there
need
are.
to model each and every layer for what? Sometimes yes, sometimes, well, most of the time I think no. And for me now it's just all about the Elm
Yeah.
model, which basically saying here are the entities, these are the relationships,
Yeah.
and these are some contact which is important. And for me, the relationship, it used to be just technical names. This hub, well, data vault term, right? This hub and this hub are related to each other. So the link, the relationship name was link, name of the one hub one, name of hub two, name of hub three. That basically what was. And then I found out, wait a minute, but if I want to talk to business people, I want business people to help me out in modeling. And also having talked to Marco Wobbe, which is one of the friends here in the Netherlands, is from Case Talk doing fact-oriented modeling, thinking, I think he has something to just really have a functional, not only functional name, but even a sentence for the
Mm,
relationship. So I'm now in my logical model, in my L model, what I'm having,
yeah.
my relationships are having just a sentence, at least in showing it to the business, because then they understand, hey, I have a customer walking into a store having a sale. On the sale, I have many products, and just writing down the sentences
Yeah.
because it's their wording. And that we physically do something different, I don't care. I think I don't care that much about the physical implementation that much anymore. It's important,
Yeah.
but we can do anything.
Oh, we certainly can. I don't think there's any shortage of ways to store data or present it.
Yeah.
Take your pick. I mean, I think, yeah, if you just look at the amount of databases, for example, not even including things like data frames or other things. I mean, it's countless implementations you could do. So,
Yeah, and I'll be very honest. I when I was starting out in BI data warehousing, right, I starting off with Cocknell, so I did all the reporting and dashboarding, and I knew all the errors there was in the tool, which I had all the workarounds. I did some business objects. I did some Microsoft stuff. I kind of named all the old ones. MicroStrategy as well, right? I knew a whole bunch of them, and I kind of worked on my reporting and dashboarding. Then I went to ETL tools. So,
mm,
well, at a certain moment of time, I had 5 different ETL tools, which I know all the bits and pieces. So I could do a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah,
And then I slowly started away from the techie modeling stuff and the data pipelining and
yeah,
dashboarding. I still know. I even studied informatica for of informatics for almost a year. I was
mm,
kind of bored because there was not enough mathematics on it, but I did it for the first time. So I even know what a Stack Overflow is. I programmed directly on a processor. I did all the stuff. I also got
yeah,
comments because your procedures are too expensive, which means I had one line code too many. I said,
mm,
okay, that's one line of code which I could have got rid of it. But then again, it works. They also asked me, if you give the copy statement, what's happening on the processor when you do a copy statement? And I'm thinking, do I care? I want to copy. I have something over here. I have the same thing over there. It worked. I don't care how it's being carried out in the middle. I still know, by the way. I still know the whole stuff, what's happening on the processor side and what
yeah.
is moving all the bits and pieces over and over. Useless information, I guess.
So you're big into Data Vault. I think today I saw a post from you on LinkedIn about I think it's something to the effect that people think Data Vault is complicated,
Yeah.
something like that. Why do you think people think Data Vault is complicated?
A couple of things. One of the reasons is that there is kind of a debate on versioning of what data vault version you need to have. By the way, I'm always asking, have you ever heard of third normal form 2.0 or dimensional 2.0 or relational, whatever? So versioning of a data modeling pattern is kind of strange, I guess. But there are some kind of strong camps between one and the other. There's a lot of I think this piggyback to what we said before, right? Tool vendors and data modeling. Also, it was very easy to automate data vault if you just go from a technical perspective. It's very
Hmm.
simple. I call it push button automation. You take in a relational model, you look into it, and said all the business keys going to be the identifiers in the hub, all the foreign keys forming a link, and all the rest is going to be in satellite information. So you can push the button and it creates a data vault for you. what a lot of tool vendors, especially in the first part of the development, did, which is going to give you a technical vault, which was never, never, ever as out from start the meaning, because it was always coming out from business function. So this is wrong one. And the other thing is that people tend to make it very complicated. And they're making it complicated because they look at, oh, we have source one, source two, source three. We need to integrate data. Let's find out in the source what's going on. Instead of just thinking, how does the business see this? How in their domain, in their business function, what are they doing? Let's model that one and then find out, okay, where is the information coming from and start integrating. I even got, I saw, well, you saw my LinkedIn post, probably in some remarks on that one. People said, yeah, I have 2 or 3 different sources. How do you want to do it in Data Vault? Because they're all referring to the same customer or the same entity. And said, well, integrate them. Yeah, but if you integrate it, it's going to give you a lot of code and it's hard to integrate. Yeah, that's true. Data integration is a hard thing. It's work. It was always work in dimensional world, in third normal form world, in anchor modeling, in focal, in data vault, whatever you're doing, integration is hard work. Unless you say, I don't want to do work, I don't want to do data integration, then just do reporting by source system.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's I think that's error number one. It's not talking to the making it too complex for yourself. And if you talk to business people and have them steering you into what model it should be, for me, it's pretty easy. And people making it highly, highly complex because, yeah, but my source gives me a table looking like this. How do I do it in Data Vault? And I think the other way around. The business do something over here. How do I model it in Data Vault? And then find a source for it. And one of the things as well is the abstraction and the generalization, because people are afraid to change the data model. That's why we had, well, we said involved party before, or arrangement, or well, the most interesting one is, right, the data model where you have a thing and a thing type. You never ever have to change your data model at all. Everything fits. Same with involved party and roles and types on it. It will capture customers, suppliers, vendors, everything almost. But you need to have a role and a type to it to make sense out of it. And people do it because they think, yeah, it's easier because then I never have to change it. So they are modeling in Data Vault. I see them, the involved party, the arrangement, whatever. And then they're getting a source system in and said, oh, this is my CRM system. It gives me customers and prospects. So I need to get the information, put it into my involved party hub, and I need to add a role and a type to it to say it's an individual or a natural person, and it's of the type of a prospect or the type of a customer. But I don't need to change my data vault model at all. Oh, and when I'm reading it, I need to filter on it to make sure that my report shows customer and prospect. And I think, okay, you don't want to have a customer hub and a prospect hub because you think that's stupid and that's crazy and that's too complex. And this, so I'm going to abstract it, and you're going to have code to say, oh, but in order to load it in here, I need to add more information to it to put it in the right spot, and I need to filter on when I get the data out again. So I think a lot of people in, unfortunately, the data vault world are thinking too complex to say, I want to make it simple by generic or abstracting. And I think that's really the wrong direction, because the business doesn't talk about that level. They are talking about customers, they are talking about prospects, they are talking about suppliers and vendors and delivery partners. So making the model simple is the hardest part. And people are doing for so long time so many things wrong, making it too complex. And then you hear the stories, right? I know the stories for a couple of companies. Yeah, we tried it. It's too complex. It doesn't work for us. No, it's not. It doesn't work for you. You had the wrong advice. You made a wrong direction. Uh, People think I'm going to read a book or multiple books and I read LinkedIn. I know how to model data vault. Yeah, that's not how it works. If you want to know really truly what you need to do, reading just a book is not enough. You need to have someone guiding you, some training, certification, but guidance for sure, someone with experience to help you out. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I love when people, when I do a training, right? I do a lot of training over the world. I love when people are sending me questions. Hey, Remco, I just got one this morning. Uh, I'm working in a company and we're getting a new source system coming in and help me out on how to name a satellite.
Mm.
It's a very simple question, but I'd rather have people asking me the question so I can just say, oh, it's very simple. You can do it like this or like this, whatever. But ask for guidance. Don't be afraid. So, yeah, and ask for reviews. Hey, we model something. Can we review? Another thing what's helping out, and I think that's unfortunately not happening too much. We in the IT business, because well, I'm afraid I still think I'm in the IT part of the organization. IT business, we make something, we model something, maybe even with business input, and then we have the model, and then we're going to implement. And what we, I think a lot of people are forgetting, and I try to push it in my training as well. Say, if you have the model, go back to your original stakeholders, present your model, explain what you did. They can help you to make your model stronger because they might ask questions. Ooh, now I see it like this. Have you thought about this? Or can we add this one as well? Or this one as well? And it only works if you're using business terms. So that's, yeah. But unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of implementation which went completely wrong, unfortunately.
That is definitely one of the criticisms I hear of Data Vault is there's like we tried it, didn't work, overly complicated, um, that kind of
Yep,
stuff, right? So um, well, it's interesting. I love your take on this too. From what I can tell, Data Vault's it's pretty popular in Europe. Um,
yep.
I maybe some pockets around the world. The United States, I think I'm only starting to see some traction. Maybe it's just the bubble that I live in. But it doesn't it doesn't seem as popular here as it does in other places. Does that
It's
match with what you're
interesting.
seeing,
Yeah.
or is it am I just living in like a under a rock?
No, no, no. We have one slide in our training, and which is saying data vault in the world, and you see a very very big blob in the Netherlands because our first data vault going live was already in 2001. The
Oh
first
wow.
two data vault implementations were live. So that's really, really, really fast. So we do a lot of data vault in the Netherlands. I would say 80% of the warehouses being built in the Netherlands is a data vault
Oh, interesting.
or kind of similar. Germany had a big push. It's kind of not sure where it's going. The Nordics, right? Sweden, Finland. There used to be a lot of traction in Finland,
It's pretty big there.
Australia,
Yeah. Australia too. Yep.
New Zealand,
Yep.
uh,
I think Wearscape came
UK.
out of New Zealand. They were one of the data vault tooling vendors. Wearscape.
Yeah, Westcape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the days.
Way back.
Yeah. Not talking about tools.
Yeah.
But the Verscape is out of New Zealand, and they have a data vault automation
Right.
solution for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Don't think I do recall, but
yeah. Belgium, it's yeah okay. Interesting enough, in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, not really much. Although Hans, my business partner Hans Hultkoen and myself, we really love to do, especially in the later part of the year, we really want to do trainings in the southern part of France and Spain, whatever, because the weather is beautiful over there. Uh, Unfortunately, not happening. US, there are some spots, not so much. Yeah, there is some going on. Basically, yes, there has been some failures. There has been some success. and depending who you're talking to, it's either one way or the other way. But
Yeah.
I know for a big company in Australia which tried it and they completely abandoned Data Vault. And I always try. I'm going back in March again, hopefully for some full classes. I always hope to be in touch with that company where it failed to just for me to learn what
Yeah.
went wrong. Because I love to do reviews, and I always tell people when I'm doing a review, is that when I do a review of Data Vault model, my red marker is going to be in my back pocket.
Mm.
I watch any model, and I'm just if I see something which I think, this is strange, I'm not going to use it because it's in my back pocket. I just why? Why did you model it like this?
Hmm.
Because there might be a very, very good reason. Most of the time it's just okay, it's a good reason, but have you thought about doing it like this, making it simpler? And it works most of the time. And data vault really isn't that complex. I really I understand why people think it's complex, but it's very simple. It's
Yeah.
you have to identify the relationships in between them, and that basically forming your skeleton. You don't have to change it. You can just add bolt onto it, and then you have your context information circling around as satellites, right? And that's where you keep your history. And if there's a new context coming in, then you just bolt an extra piece on it, or you have to change maybe a little bit. But the amount of work needed to be done is pretty small. Yeah, I don't think why the world isn't going to embrace data vault as much as they are doing. We are doing it in the Netherlands. So yeah, I think it's and it might be our cult because we always think, why does the Netherlands to the Dutch do so many data vaults? It has to do with company size, relatively small companies, right? It also has to do with the modelers and the architects are having a big amount of freedom. If in the Netherlands an architect or a modeler says, this might be something, I want to try it. They
Yeah.
don't have to go all the way up to sea level. Well, maybe to get some budget going around, although I know the two starting off were more as a 1 day a week free time starting off point. But it's more like we have the freedom to find out what we need to do, and we can do it. And I think, especially in the US, but also I know in Germany and other, well, in France, if it's not in French, then it's a hard part, right? But there are big companies where they said, it's running, don't touch it. We have something now, don't touch it. Don't do anything on top of it, just keep it running. And that's very hard to get something new then. Although 25 years data vault, not really new anymore.
It's not new.
No, no.
I think Dan first, I talked to him, I think it was the 90s he came up with I think it
The
was.
first paper is published 1999, 2000-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Then the first paper publicly available.
Right.
And there was some, I think, somewhere in the 90s, there was already Dan Lindstedt was already thinking about data vault and doing
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
I mean, it's basically
uh,
a full-grown adult with like children at this point. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like it's not new, but
yeah.
it is interesting. And the training thing you bring up is interesting too, because I feel like that's one of the big gaps that I see. Um, Yeah, maybe with Data Vault, perhaps. I got to admit I'm not, completely coherent on Data Vault. I'll be the first to say that, and that's perfectly fine. But I do think what you said about training rings true, not just for Data Vault, but for a lot of things, whether
Absolutely.
we're talking modeling or just general skills. I feel like, I write about this pretty extensively, but it feels like there's no shortage of great tools these days. But our understanding of how to leverage them to their fullest capability using great practices and just thinking about what we're doing. That remains somewhat of a lost art, and I would say there's a giant gap between the potential of the awesome tools we have and what we can really, how we operate to achieve that. But a lot of it is education and knowledge, you know.
Education and knowledge and learning from experienced people.
Yeah.
And when I was starting in the BI world, right, my first I worked for a consulting company. They said, "Hey, fun that you're an environmental engineer, but if you want to go to do something fun, work with us." A little bit different story, but that's basically what we're doing. And the first thing they did after they hired me, they said, "Oh, by the way, you're starting. I think it was in November or something. Uh, these 2 weeks you're going to be at Cognos and you're learning Cognos
Okay.
inside out. So the full 2 weeks of training. So the basic one and the administration one and the extensive one. And then I was sent to a project with two. Well, I would say my guidance masters, really experienced people. So I was not sent to a project on my own and do some basic reporting, but I was working with them and I did a
That's
simple
cool.
report first. And then you run into some issues and then you have to solve issues and then you discuss with them how would you do it. And I think that's a missed art. It's having the coach next to you, helping you out. And I think that's for everything.
It certainly
And
is.
and maybe one of the other topics we can, of course, discuss is that the coding buddies or modeling buddies, right, can help on that part, right? The AI agents, maybe if they are properly trained, because someone needs to train that buddies, that agents, right, to give a proper answer. And that's one of the things I'm working on as well to have a data modeling agent for data vault modeling only.
That's
Don't
cool.
ask it to do a dimensional model or do a third normal form model. No, it just only gives you a data vault model or basically an ensemble model, which is also working for focal or anchor modeling. But I'm not going to do. I'm going to create a modeling body because then I'm going to use so many information, right? Because you need to have a training set and you need to feed it with documentation. I want to have a small, limited set of documents and training sets to say, if you know all this information, now you can help. But it's only there to help.
Kid just showed up with his friend.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah,
can
yeah.
walk. You
Yeah.
guys can walk through the room. It's fine. So,
No, but
yeah,
basically, right? That's what I'm thinking is you need to be trained. You
yeah.
need to be open to. You need to have a coach,
Hmm.
whatever kind of coach it is, and it could be someone, preferably someone in the field. And you need to be not afraid to ask questions. The worst thing what can happen is that, oh, I'm trained. I'm not asking a question because the person I'm going to ask a question to thinks I'm stupid.
Right.
I th I think it's the same for you, Joe, right? When you are well, you're doing your modeling stuff, right, and your data stuff. If you help people, if you guide people, if you coach people, you want them to ask questions to you because that's the only way you can help them.
It helps. Um, and it helps me too, right? It helps me understand what I
Yeah,
could do better as a teacher going forward. So sorry, my dog knows how to open up doors, so she does that. So no, so I mean that's absolutely right. It's AI is an interesting one though. You mentioned the agents part, and I think that this is throwing an interesting I actually think it's pretty awesome. And it's throwing an interesting curveball into a lot of things, I think in a good, hopefully a good way. Um, it is like I'm finding, I'm trying to figure out ways. So how can, how would Remco be able to scale like yourself, past doing one-to-one physical stuff, training or whatever, and then you could have a bot that just sort of answers a lot of questions. Like I'm building an avatar right now, actually, with a company that'll hopefully answer a lot of data engineering questions. I guess we'll find out.
interesting.
As I was actually playing with Andrew Ng's uh, um, avatar and asking it questions. So it's an interesting world we're in, where I think depending on how it's trained, um, hopefully it's useful. There's a really good paper. I don't know if you read The Bitter Truth. I think by Russell Sutton. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting paper where this is something I've been thinking about, where it's in the end with AI, what's always fascinating is just leave the door open. It's fine. The With AI, compute always ends up winning at the end of the day. And so it's one of those things where maybe we just need to wait for the models to get better and better and better, right? Like O3 that just came out a few weeks ago from OpenAI. I mean, that was pretty interesting in terms of its reasoning abilities with math.
Mhm.
And so it's part of me's wondering how, as these models keep progressing, you
Yeah, but
know,
at the same token, I'm not sure, and I'm curious how you think about it, Joe, because again, I'm using OpenAI or the ChatGPT version,
yeah,
right? Uh, but I created my own GPT, my own, well, I as SLM, right? Smart learning model instead of a large learning model.
yeah,
I'm limiting it to data which I trust and which I know what's in.
sure.
Because if you're just using the generic LLM, basically use everything been written until a couple of months ago, right? That's your training set. And you think, okay, look at LinkedIn. How many different opinions there are on modeling or data or approaches or whatever? They're completely opposite, even camps fighting each other. In data
All
vault
the
world, I
time.
know for sure and then how do you think that if you're asking it, even if with O3, with O1, with the reasoning part into it, say, here it is, here's my question, use everything you know, what you get from every information, and help me.
Hmm.
It
It,
only
it,
works.
well, and
It,
the way I kind of view this though is it is, and you saw this with other AI models like AlphaGo, for example, and others
Mhm.
that, it would come up with solutions that weren't even apparent to the people who were playing against it, right? Like when you're talking about Go, for example,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lisa Doll is like, I have no idea how you would even have thought of that move, right? And so it's entirely possible, actually, that as these things start getting into more business domains, that it perhaps looks at problems differently than we do and comes up with novel solutions to problems that we probably hadn't thought of before. I think that this is entirely possible. Again, you're not dealing with something that reasons like people, right? It's not a person.
Yeah.
It's different. And so I would say that it's so I think what I'm thinking a lot about is we try and superimpose a lot of the human processes that we've had for ages. But we keep running into the same problems over and over. So I'm kind of wondering, well, okay, is it maybe robots actually, maybe there is a chance that they can do it better than us and probably in a bit more novel way. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I'm entirely open to this idea is what
No,
I'm
no.
saying, where it made me think about data vault in an entirely different way that like, nobody's thought of before. I don't know.
Uh,
Perhaps.
maybe, yeah. But so far, at least, I can completely go with you. But if I'm, and it's one of my well, the modeling GPT, and again, I'm
Yeah,
using
yeah,
a fixed knowledge base and training set
sure.
because it's and the approach we're using is the Elm approach, which I know the Elm approach, and this is how it works.
Right.
Small steps because that's how it works. I think it works best. And there might be different approaches. But
Sure.
I also ask if even if it's coming right and it does reasoning to say or kind of say, this is giving a business case. Give me all your business concept, basically all your terms being used.
Mm,
If you find something which might be new, which you said is not in the business case itself, but it's interesting, it's needed, add it, but just make your mark. I added this one, and this is the reason why.
yep.
Because I think that's very, very important to just know, hey, I came up with something which you didn't provide me first, and this is the reason why I think this is important to add. And I think with same with AlphaGo, right? I don't know the rules of Go anyway, but I could see that I give it all the rules of Go and all the games and matches so played so far. I can give everything within this box, this limit, and then to say if you come up with some new move or whatever which has never been described before, cool. Give me the reason why, because I
Hmm.
need to learn as well. And I think this is something which is a lot forgotten. I think, by the way, it's the same for data scientists, right? If a data scientist comes up with, "Oh, with our organization, we need to go this direction because I had did my data science stuff and
Mm,
I found out that there's an opportunity over here."
yep.
I don't hope that a company is blindly following the data scientist, that he needs to explain, give me the reason why, how
Yep.
you come up with this information. Same for AI. And AI for me stand, by the way, for assisted intelligence, not artificial.
Hmm.
It's assisting us. At least I hope it's assisting us.
We'll see.
But I love your idea about an avatar. I'm not that far to add it as well.
No,
But again, there's
what?
so much, right? I think the field is so interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating, and before you know it, you are going into it for hours and hours and hours and just playing around. It's the same with I think it was it Suno, the one doing music. It's creating songs. You just
Mm,
I even we had our Data Vault consortium in Portugal in November, which was great fun.
that sounds
And I
fun.
just gave it a business case and said, create a song out of it one. And it came back with a song, which was cool. By the way, talking about AI, I took a picture of the group. We were on a coffee break, so the group of data nerds, let's say data nerds, modeling nerds, were just getting some coffee. I took a picture and I feeded the picture into ChatGPT in my LLM. Said, "Can you model this picture?" And it perfectly found out. Ooh, there are some. It knew a little bit more information, right? But there are, hey, data modelers. They are in a conference. There are a coffee break, and it gave me all the information back. I think, this is amazing. This is great. So it's interesting. I think my wife knows, by the way, I'm never ever going to retire because this field is so much evolving still, and there's so much fun. There's so much stuff going around. I don't want to retire. I just want to go and play along and just share what I found out.
Yeah. Well, you're having fun with it, right?
Yeah,
You're enthusiastic in this chat, and you're enthusiastic every time I talk to you, right? You're just
yeah,
you're having
it,
fun.
it is. It's the same with, I can refer to the Bilar one, but also probably you know this one from Finland, right? Salmiakki.
Ah, yes, I've had that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I did a presentation last year on Data Modeling Zone in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was basically context is everything. But I was starting playing around with AI. If I'm asking you, because you're a data guy, right? If I'm going to ask you to describe this box, you're probably going to say, "Oh, there's a code on it. There's a square box." So you're already thinking in mind, I need to have an identifier. I need to have the factory with more or less a foreign key. There's descriptive information like dimensions and what's in it, etc. A whole bunch of stuff, which is cool because that's what we do. We're thinking that way. Asking the same question to ChatGPT or to Gemini or whatever you
Yeah.
want to use to say, here's a box, could you describe it? It never comes up with a business key. It came up with interesting information like, hey, salmiakki, it's an acquired taste, mainly for people in Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Dutch people are also liking it.
Yeah.
So it comes up with completely different information. I didn't ever thought about it. It was a
Exactly.
little bit too lengthy, and I'm not sure it all was useful, but it's interesting.
It is interesting. And the difference is it's not talking in terms of keys, it's thinking in terms of vectors, right? And how close are these vectors to each other in multimodal sense, right? And that's what's it's fascinating. Because it's at least for now, this is how computers quote think. But it's sort of these uh, associations, whether you're talking about cosine similarity or whatever closeness relationship you want to look at. Um, so it's different, right? But it's going to have a different totally. And I've been thinking about this, and one of the chapters of my mixed model arts is going to be on machine learning and AI, and how do you think
Hmm.
about data for that? Totally different question. And how do you model data for data vault? These are not the same things.
These are
But
not the same thing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yet. But the question is, how do you bridge this world, right? Because I feel like increasingly it's yes, especially as we move towards data being integrated from all different sources, right? You talked about integration earlier in the data vault sense. Now it's not just integrating tables from different source systems, it's integrating images, video, audio, tables, text, everything all into one thing. And it's like, how does this all look, right? This is a bigger more fascinating question, at least to me. This is why I've been writing this book. I could care less about, well, I do care, but it's like, what sort of data modeling approach is better for this, for using tables? I'm like, I don't know, for analytics, it's pick what works. The more interesting thing is like, how does all this fuse together in the future?
Yep,
I
yep.
mean, we're entering a completely different planet at this point.
It is completely fascinating. I just, by the way, yeah, this morning I sent in my Word document to the publisher and the visual, so my book is going to be published and
Oh,
printed.
what's your book?
It's from stories to solution.
Oh, nice.
It's basically
Congrats.
about the whole Elm process, how it works. Uh, but it also, and it's including an example. I'm using the Wittibot case from the German-speaking data vault user group, which is being used by a lot of tool vendors as well as an example how it works out from a business perspective. All the templates are being described, but also how to run a workshop and what to do and what you don't need to
That's
do
cool.
getting a workshop. But also included, of course, a chapter about my about AI as an assistant in helping out in modeling.
That's super
Uh,
cool.
it's only a small chapter because before you know it, you're going on and on and on, and I was already doing this book for I think 3 years ago. I started the first
Wow.
idea and kind of getting it. So I just wanted to have it finished as well. But I will be sure that there will be well. Not sure if I'm going to do a follow-up writing because writing takes a lot of time. Well, right? Writing is a lot of
You can do
yeah.
Substack though, right? Or some blog and just post about the ongoing evolution of your experiences with AI. Think it's probably more.
I might want to do. I'm still thinking about how to do. My post on data modeling issues and especially data vault issues is very practical. So I might want to do Substack on that one to just because I don't need to have it published, but I want to have some kind of comprehensive document, let's say book, where all that kind of stuff is going to be in.
Mhm.
It's easier for people to follow that one on Substack than instead of going to all my LinkedIn pages.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I don't mind
LinkedIn
if people
search
go
cap
into my LinkedIn pages, but yeah,
LinkedIn search is atrocious. I gotta say it, and I'll go on the record as saying this. If you have articles on LinkedIn, that's one thing, but like their search capability and post search is like horrible.
and
If
it's
you're
getting it was better than it was before. It's now really becoming worse.
great. So,
So,
yeah, so
but so I need to do something. I have all my posts still, of course. I know what I've written down, so I can just easily transform the one. Uh, but I'm first going to, together with my business partner Hans Hultgren, we are going to get a well. It's a novelty for you on the podcast, Joe. We are going to do a training on basically on AI and data modeling, especially
that's
data
super
vault
cool.
modeling. We're going to do a training on that one. It's more about what to do, what don't to do, prompt engineering, right? Because it's very, very important, but also recognize result. People need to play with some kind of stuff. So it's coming.
That's awesome. Let me know when that's out. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. I think that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm excited about what you're doing with that is it's you're doing something different. I think in data modeling, what I've observed is I think there's a lot of this isn't meant as a dig at anybody, but it's kind of like people are stuck in the past and saying, "Oh, AI won't do anything for us. Like we got it all covered." And I'm like, "Yeah, except the fact that like data modeling is sort of feeling like a dying art around the world too. AI is pervasive. It's everywhere, so learn to love it.
yeah.
It ain't going anywhere. So I'm glad that you're keeping an open mind about things and really pushing, yourself forward and hopefully the practice in the field. I think that's really, really cool.
It's also it's so much fun.
It's fun.
That's basically what it is, right? It's great fun. It is interesting to see where it's going. And again, I never thought about taking a picture out of something and just say, "Oh, create a data model out of this one." Uh, yeah, and I would say a lot of data modelers would say, "Where's my data? Where are my tables? Where are my primary keys? Where are my foreign keys?" Yeah, no, AI is going to help you to say, "This is how it works."
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's kind of logical that it's going to help because I'm already in, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years now working with how do I get business people involved in modeling. And for me, it's AI is more or less the same. It's on the same line. It's really saying, okay, If I know how business people are going to help, AI can follow that same path and can help me and guide me in my modeling expert. How cool would it be if you can just go into a call with some people or a recording of meetings of the business, get all documents and just say, here it is.
Oh, I bet you could
Now
already
make
do
sense out
that.
of it.
I bet if you hit record on like Claude or ChatGPT, I would be surprised if it wouldn't come up with something pretty good.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And there are some meeting notes
Yeah.
taking stuff, right? They are getting sentiment, they're getting this, and they know exactly who said what, but they also condense stuff. If you feed that whole stream into your ChatGPT modeling environment, it will definitely come up with something.
Oh yeah, and the thing I've been thinking about too is I don't think this would fly in Europe because you guys have regulations on AI, but here in the States, I would not be surprised if I'm sure it's probably already happening. Every conversation, every email, every call that's recorded. I mean, all this gets sucked into an LLM basically, and but that also would provide you a lot of the context of the conversations because I mean, one of the biggest challenges in modeling is your quote conceptual logical model that the conversations people have and how that's translated to a data model. That almost automatically gets out of sync, right? Because
Yeah.
people have new ideas, people talk about new stuff, people call something different. Maybe you happen to talk to the wrong guy or gal, and they gave you a term of something, and it's actually not called that at all, right? This whole thing would, this kind of cloud of words would, and voice and video and everything else would capture that. And I actually think that it's creepy, but it might hold one of the keys to just keeping your data model in sync, in real time. But it would never happen in Europe. In the States, we're going to deregulate everything. It'll probably happen here. So,
Yeah. No, I think we are luckily we in Europe are a little bit more concerned about data privacy and where to store what and what to do with it. But I definitely agree that there's so much interesting going on and interesting what you're saying, right? If you talk to multiple people, they're coming up with new words or new terms, or they're using the same term and they don't understand what is they
happens all
don't
the time.
it happens all the time. I had a lot of fun discussions on some parts as well, and I think it's interesting on the approach we are using. Right, it's coming out very soon because, for instance, I work for a healthcare organization, and the term bed, and okay, and one of the first thing I wrote down bed. What is it? Is it an event, a person, a place, a thing, or something else? Right? And someone said, "Yeah, it's a thing, of course, because everybody knows what a bed is, right? It's
Mm,
has a mattress on it, you can lie on it." And there are people saying actually, it's a place. And then we got the discussion, right? And the people from the maintenance part said, yeah, a bed is a physical thing. But the people from the healthcare organization, no. A bed is actually a location in a hospital room which needed to have oxygen and electricity and monitors hooked up, etc. There is not even a physical bed needed to call it a bed. For me, it was interesting to see how people were, because I did a very simple thing, categorizing it, already came to the conclusion we always thought we were discussing the same thing, but basically we're talking about two different things. And it's very easy to solve.
hmm
We have the same name for two different things. Well, let's call them differently. So they basically found out that, you know what, let's call one thing a physical bed and the other one a bed. And within maintenance, they can call it a bed, whatever they want to have. But if we're talking to each other, we call it a physical bed and a bed.
Yep.
It's so simple if you can communicate with people.
Yeah. But it's also this context that the AI is going to need, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I think AI, and if you're going to use OWL or the other, right, even in UX, all the kind of fun stuff, grasping all the data, etc., it's assisting you.
hmm
It's not replacing you on this part. It will replace or change a whole bunch of jobs, right? Coders, note takers, all those jobs are going to change. Maybe we need less people on that part, but it will be changing.
Oh yeah.
Not saying they don't be needed at all.
Which was funny. The World Economic Forum, they just released their jobs report for 2025, and the top job but at least for the foreseeable future until 2030 was big data specialist, quote unquote. Which first question is I have no idea what that means exactly, but that's what they said was the number one job. So I
Well,
thought that
that's
was,
fun that they say it's a, yeah. I would say everybody be a big data specialist.
yeah, whatever that is. I have no idea. I thought the term big data went out of style as well, but here we are. So I'm not sure what that
I
means.
thought it was already regular data nowadays, but yeah,
Small data,
no,
big data. Yeah. It's,
yeah. I think it's fun when you're talking about job roles, right? People asking me, yeah, I'm a business analyst, or do we need a business analyst? So what do you think a business analyst is doing? What's the functional analyst? What's a business analyst for you? Because I don't know. It's every organization has a different idea about a business analyst or a data analyst or a big data specialist or whatever.
yeah.
Again, communication. And I think that's
Yep.
scary for a whole bunch of people in the IT world to communicate. Fun story. I work for a company and I need to do a BI and data warehouse architecture. And I was walking into the building and I was passing by the whole hallway and another hallway. And there were all people from the business sitting, having taken the phone calls and doing their meetings and all the other fun stuff. At the end of the hallway, the last hallway was the IT department. Door closed. I was not allowed to talk to the business people. I said, how do you want me to create a BI and data warehouse architecture if I'm not allowed to talk to the people who it's my concern? Yeah, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I resigned. I said, well, you know what? Have fun. Not my
Yeah.
job. If you want me to do something for the business, I need to talk to the business. I'm not going to look at technical information and to IT people saying how the stuff is run. Doesn't work that way. And communication is scary for some people.
It is.
So yeah, it's fun.
It is fun.
And I think this also, by the way, and I know I can go. Well, it's 11:10 at the moment for
I
now
know.
PM. I can go on for hours and hours, but also this is we are going to do our global data summit in June, right, in Iceland.
Yeah.
Uh, and the reason why is just because what we are doing right now, right, talking about data.
Hmm.
Yes, it's a conference, and everybody should go there. Of course, it's great fun to talk about data, and it is great fun to talk about data. We starting me and my business partner, we starting organizing these kind of conferences, not because we want to make money out of it. We don't, but really we love talking to people, well, like you, like Ivamaya, like Mark Wobbe, like
Yeah.
name them all with different ideas, not my own idea. I don't want people to talk the same like I'm doing.
Yeah.
I want to hear different ideas. So we are going to talk about, yeah, AI will be in governance stuff, ethics, privacy, compliance, modeling, of course, all the fun stuff, just to learn from each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what it's about at the end of the day, right? It's
Oh, at the end of the day, a beer, of course, and
beer,
still talk
it's
about
true.
data.
But I'm noticing, I think in person is going to be more and more important as AI becomes more and more ingrained in our lives, even more than it already is, which is quite a bit actually. But like people are going to want more human experiences, right? Meeting people in cool
Yeah,
places like Iceland and talking to each other and just like you say, having a beer. That's something I can't do with my my avatar, at least yet.
it will be very
Um,
lonely.
Yeah, and well, the thing is too, I don't know what it's like, where you are, but the who is it? Derek Thompson, an American writer, just wrote about the loneliness epidemic in America right now, and it's a big thing. People are
Mhm.
just they don't hang out like they used to. We're just staring at screens, typing on doom scrolling on our phones all day. It's
Yeah, that's
different.
it's. My wife even said, you know what I'm going to do when I'm traveling to work? I'm not watching on my phone anymore. I'm just leaving it in my pocket because there's so much to see and not to talk to other people anymore. But everybody's looking at the screens and
Oh, dude, yeah.
yeah,
I think like the universal posture I've commented is just somebody's like hunched over staring at their phone screen. I'm guilty of that as anybody, but it is what it
I had
is.
do you know the TV series Doctor Who?
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah,
Doctor
I
Who.
recently I just just pumped into it. Today I saw a one of the I think the episodes, and basically what they had, there was a kind of a bubble around their head with all the kind of Facebooky kind of style talking to people, and literally that also said you have to move forward or go left, or so gave the directions. And of course, she removed her bubble, and then she couldn't walk anymore because she didn't know what direction need to go.
Mm,
I think basically that is it's kind of scary when that's going to happen. If we are so attached to our screen and don't look where we are doing anymore. So yeah, that's scary.
it is.
But I would say also it's interesting time because I also see the opposite part. How easy, because I'm now in the Netherlands, right? You are based in Utah, correct? Yeah.
Hmm.
We can talk to each other. We can have fun. We have a good discussion. Yes,
Oh
it
yeah.
will be more fun in Iceland when we are sitting next to the bar with each other and have a beer in our hand and
Yeah.
a paper to. But we can also now have a chat and talk. We can even invite more people from Australia and New Zealand in the same chat.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't possible before. How cool is that to talk with so many different people at the same time on different locations? So it's a balance, right? It's two sides of two sides of the same coin.
It is. It's super fun.
It is, yeah.
Cool, man. I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. It's getting pretty late there. But yeah, great chat talking with you. And love you have you and Hans on to nerd out on AI data modeling whenever you feel like it. So that's super cool
Yeah,
you're doing that. So
cool. We are keeping you updated, Joe. And thanks very much for having me. And
anytime,
let's do it again sometime
for sure.
with
See
a
you soon.
beer.
All right, yes.
See you soon.
All right, see
Okay.
you, man.
Cheers.